Hello guys. Today Mike is here through the phone.
Hey, what's up, guys?
It's been a bit. we, it's been tough trying to get going on a video, mainly because of so much that's been going on lately with everything and the whatever. But yeah, sports are coming back.
I do also have another food review that I think I'm gonna release soon. If that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And let's see. But yeah, we're just gonna go over all of them. All of them are coming back in their own weird way, and we're just gonna give our thoughts. Let's start with hockey. So hockey, Mike's not familiar with these, so I'm gonna go over. So hockey, the way hockey is, like hockey was canceled when there was a few games left in a regular season. They were almost done before the playoffs. So what they're doing is they're picking that they're just saying fuck that noise, and they're not going to finish the regular season. They're going to take the top 22 teams and have a big playoff thing. And it's a best of 5 series throughout it for the most part, and they're going to air all the games. So it's going to be a hockey splooge fest.
Why do you call it that?
I don't know. It just sounded right in my head. But yeah, it's pretty much what it's gonna be. And
see what's going on in your head on regular days. Not heard the video. I'm just kidding, man. You're good.
But and all the games are going to take place in 2 cities, both in Canada. One, I believe, is Toronto, and the other one's Edmonton. The East is in Toronto, and the West is in Edmonton. In the conference, each conference has their own city, and yeah, what do you think of that? And while you're saying it, I'm gonna double check my info just to be sure.
They're in Canada, huh?
Yeah, none of the. Yeah, nothing's gonna be in America. It's all gonna be in Canada.
Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense, because the NHL's got a lot of Canadian teams, and
here's
some of them are very prominent.
Here's something I got wrong. It's 2014, not 22. I didn't think the numbers right.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah. And so everything starts August 1st.
August 1st.
Yes, and it's a qualifiers and round robins. So they're kind of doing that as opposed to finishing the regular season, with the first round being on August 11th, and it's and then it's said that the Stanley Cup Final has a tentative date of September 22nd. So it should end by September, pretty much. And I imagine the following season will probably be a short season, so that everything aligns right.
Nah.
But yeah. And then the first games of the playoffs featuring best of 5 series qualifiers. And then the round robin section of the postseason will start August 2nd.
Okay.
And then Toronto for Eastern Conference, Edmonton for Western. Alright, I got that right. The Stanley Cup Final will be in Edmonton. Alright, so it's actually, the Stanley Cup Final is actually supposed to be completed by October 4th.
Yeah. It's a weird schedule because of these things.
It's like they're doing like NCAA basketball style, pretty much. You know?
Yeah, I don't even know.
Except with the round robin.
It's different, that's for sure. Doesn't mean it'll be necessarily good.
Yeah, I mean it does make things intriguing for sure in terms of I think the one thing about this, it kind of makes the league's experiment of possibilities for future playoff ideas, you know, because Because who knows? I mean, they might keep some of these things that they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe these things translate to some future ideas in the next couple seasons or something like that.
Yeah. So basically what's happening is like... So this is a bit more clarification because they're being a little funky with it. So the top 4 seeds in each conference will receive a bye for this round, the qualifying round, leaving seeds 5th through 12 in each conference to face off for the remaining spots in the playoff bracket. These series will be best of 5, with playoff overtime rules in effect. And the winners will move on to face the top 4. While that's happening, the top 4 seeds will play a round-robin tournament to determine their seeding for the first round of the playoffs. If these games go to overtime, then they would be played under regular season overtime rules. If there is a tie in points at the conclusion of the round robin, then points percentage from the regular season will be used as a tiebreaker.
Okay, so you said the 5th through 12th have like best of 5 series?
Yes.
Playoff spots?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of like that because only, 4 teams get to not do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it kind of, like, I think it's good because there's not more teams that are in and out, Like, there's still a challenge if you're not one of those top teams. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You
yeah.
still play that series.
Yeah. And then after everything is said between the qualifying and the round robin, the bracket is officially set, and a playoff series will be best of 7 from the first round to the Stanley Cup. So it's a lot of games, more than what we get for a regular playoff series. But yeah, that's what hockey's doing. What do you think of it?
Well, I would watch for sure. It sounds like fun, and like if you're a hockey fan and you've been, missing out, waiting for it to come back, they're coming back with a lot of games. That'd be pretty cool. Get your fill that you're kind of missing out on.
Yeah.
And I also, like I said, I like that they don't have too many teams with like a guaranteed spot. It's 4, and then there's I think like 8 teams that are competing. So that's double the teams that are still having to fight. You know what I mean? It's not like a ton of them are just guaranteed, but it's not like only 1 or 2 either. So
Yeah, and yeah, it just kind of it's cool because the top 4 teams, they can't sit either because they have to compete for a better spot, because if they just coast and get 4th place, then they're playing against the 5th seed. So that's no slouch. I mean, they could work their ass off in the regular season to get like the most points, but if they just go to 4th place, they're having a competitive playoff run, as opposed to getting the top seed and you play like the scrub seed, like, or whatever. So I like it a lot. I don't know if they'll keep it in the future because it is very highly complex, and I think that they kind of, I don't know if they want to, because in all honesty, in these last few years, the NHL playoffs and the way they're organized, it's been a little chaotic with how they've been organized. They've changed their division and their conference alignments. They changed that a lot in recent years. So I'm kind of curious, once they add their Seattle team, once they start kicking off, of how they're going to realign things again, because they're going to have 32 teams. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I hope they keep some things. I kind of like the. I think if they're gonna keep it the same, I think they need a shorter regular season, which I wouldn't mind, because I think outside of football, I think the other sports league seasons are too long. I think they should be shorter.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It seems like there's way too many games, and
Plus, it gives the games more meaning too, and it'll the desire to watch will be better. I mean, who's gonna I mean, with baseball, for example, because baseball's a great example. I mean, 162 games. Like, who's gonna want to watch all the games? I mean, sure they don't have any competition through the summer, but I mean, come on. I mean, I say cut that down for sure. Hockey and basketball, I say cut it down maybe a third or a half.
Yeah, I think football is good. It's already really short, but still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get to football in a little bit, but I got basketball up. So unlike hockey, they are gonna finish the regular season for certain teams. Like let's see. Let me. Uh, okay, I may have to find a different link. Uh, but yeah, but basically they're having a regular season for certain teams, playoff teams, and they're gonna have a bubble too. But I don't remember as much information as the hockey one, so I'm gonna have to look it up here quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, the NBA one I don't remember as if it's anything as extreme as hockey. All right, so the plan is to restart the season, and I'm using Wikipedia, on July 31st, 2020. So the 22 top teams, this is where I got 22 from, in the league will, at the same time of the suspension, will play 8 regular season games to determine playoff seeding, and 16 of those clubs will then play in a convention.
That's for NBA?
Yes, this is NBA. So it's much more conventional for NBA. Pretty much what they're doing is the top 22 teams, they're going to finish their regular season. They had 8 games left. So they're going to do that. And then 16 of those clubs will then play in a conventional postseason tournament like usual. However, there's this additional thing. Should the 9 seed within a conference finish the regular season within 4 games of the 8 seed, they will then compete in a play-in series. So they're kind of giving a little bit of a break for the 9th seed.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I think in the NFL and like the NBA has done, they have like that wild card kind of close to in seed.
Yeah.
Not the division leader or anything like that.
Yeah. So basically it's a best of 3 for the play-in series. For the final seed in each conference would then be held if the 9th seed finishes the regular season within 4 games of the 8th seed.
Yeah, so like
yeah.
that way it's not a bunch of games for just the wild card, and then it takes forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, the 8th seed would start with a de facto 1-0 lead, meaning that it would just need 1 win to advance, while the 9th seed would need 2. So, even though it says best of 3, it's more like 2 games. 2 more games.
Okay.
And under the 8 teams with the most wins in each conference qualify for the playoffs. The seedings are based on each team's record. Each conference's bracket is fixed. There is no reseeding. All rounds are best of 7. The series ends with 1 team wins 4 games and the team advances to the next round. Okay. If 2 teams standard, okay. Conference, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's not as different. The only thing is, like, there's not much different. However, the play-in rule I find interesting. I think that's an interesting thing, and I I think given how quick basketball is as a sport, I actually kind of like that. However, the only problem with basketball is that the division of talent is very terrible in the NBA. Like, even in video games, when I've done, like, reviewed the PS2 2K games, there was a lot of them where it felt like only a few teams were great and the rest were kind of scrubby. At least in the overall department. So, I don't. So, so I like the idea, but it would be more interesting if the teams I thought were more evenly divided up instead of like a Lakers and like the four teams that are like overpowered and everyone else is kind of just like scrubbing it along. But I like the play-in idea, but everything else just seems like what people expected how to it resume. However, I do believe there is a hub city for the playoffs.
What does that even mean?
It's kind of like hockey where everything takes place within a city or two for the playoffs this time because of, the thing.
Yeah, so what city is it?
I gotta look. I forgot hockey. I mean, I forgot basketball.
Damn. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's so Orlando, Florida. It's one city, and I remember hearing things online, and it's kind of eerie how well they did it in such a quick time. That hub city, it's built to live in pretty much.
Okay.
But it's all gonna take place in Orlando, pretty much.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's kind of it. It's not as exciting as hockey. The only real change is the only thing is only 22 teams finish the regular season in the play-in thing between the eighth and ninth seed. That's really the only unique thing. Other than that, it's pretty much just business as usual for the NBA.
Well, I guess that means something.
Yeah, I like the play-in rule. I think that's something they could definitely try in the future. I think it would be more interesting if the teams had a bit more talent division, I guess, but that's something that's kind of random. That's not something you can really control. So, but yeah, I mean, what do you think of that overall?
I'm unsure, honestly. We might have to just wait and see how it plays out. I don't really think that, like, coming to a conclusion right now is necessarily thoughtful. I think it'd be better to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I guess for me, it sounds like what you expect. I mean, I kind of like that they're at least trying to finish the regular season. It makes sense that they leave out some teams because it would be cruel to bring the worst 8 teams and just be like, hey, finish the season, then go home. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Um, but yeah, so we'll move on to baseball. Baseball, I am aware of. I'll still look it up. So basically, and I feel like you might be more familiar with baseball here, what they're doing. Um,
I also feel like I have to mention one of the MLB analysts last year rated a prospect as a better player right now than Nick Castellanos at third base.
well, the problem with Nick,
Rankings and
yeah,
analysts, man.
the problem with Nick is that he's a solid hitter, but they could never figure out if he was going to play outfield or third base. Because I think he was originally an outfielder when he really started, but they were stacked in outfield at times, so they moved him to third. And he started rough, but by the time he started getting decent at it, they moved him back to outfield. And he's kind of been thrown around a lot. His real thing is his hitting, which even that kind of had some issues at some points.
I got you, man. But think about that. Just think about rating a prospect higher than a very established player. You know what I mean?
They should be separate things. I mean, established players are in a different category than prospects. It's apples and oranges. You can't compare them. The prospect hasn't played in MLB yet. They haven't proven themselves. I mean,
Exactly, and
yeah, you know what?
that's
Yeah.
all the more reason to not put a prospect on a best player right now list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if they played in the major leagues for a bit, but then got sent back down to the minors, and they're doing well, then I could see maybe an argument for it. Though I still think that'd be kind of weird. But for them, but you know how many great players are in like minor leagues? Like overall, if you're in a minor league baseball, you're probably a pretty decent player. You know, at the very least. I mean, good enough for scouts to notice you and get drafted or signed even, but but compared to MLB, it's like no, it needs to be separate. So
Mm,
so here are the changes for baseball. So most people know it's going to be a 60-game season. As far as I know, there's not going to be an All-Star game or break. So we're not going to have that this year. So I don't know how they're going to determine who gets the home field advantage for the World Series. Um,
Maybe they could just honestly just flip a coin or something. They could think of something that wouldn't be that hard.
to be honest, I love that they made the All-Star game a determining thing in the home court field advantage because then it makes the game mean something. It makes it worth playing. So, 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 in my opinion, some of the best All-Star games are in baseball, like in history. Like, I don't, I don't remember hardly anything about Pro Bowls or NBA All Stars or the NHL All Star game. Hell, they skip it almost half the time for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So,
It's one of those things that's like you never really thought about it until something like this happens. Like, what would they do without an all-star game?
yeah.
They never thought about it because you can always have the all-star game, but then this pandemic thing, and then it's like, oh well, we need to think of something now. Well, yeah.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's something I feel like they could have had in the rule book already. Just a backup or something they could think about doing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think they could do coin toss. They could either just let it be the same as it was last year, or let the other league have its turn. I don't know. We'll see on that. So here are the changes for this year. So the first one is there's going to be a universal designated hitter. So both leagues use the DH to avoid overtaxing pitchers by having them hit.
Yeah.
So that
I've always thought that DH was a good idea, in my opinion. I mean, like, I feel like a pitcher should be able to hit if they want to, and I just feel like it's better overall. There's more hits, there's more action. I feel like it gives players the ability to have to not only just hit well, but also pick up on their fielding when they, at some point, maybe do get called back to field and need to do it.
yeah.
And it also isn't, yeah, like I said, taxing on the pitchers.
Yeah, and well, I guess for me, I like that it's one is different than the other, and the main reason is because I like both. I like with the DH, I like that a player can continue his career and not be a fielder. It can extend careers, which I love. Um, it does simplify the managing process because you don't have to do all these switches later in the game to get good hitters playing. You know, and replace pitchers. However, I do like the no DH because I don't know because again the strategy for managing you can use more of that, so it makes it a more thinking thing. Um, I also there's also some pitchers that can hit, and seeing a pitcher that can hit is always awesome. And this is the devious side of me. I always kind of get a chuckle when I see a pitcher come up to bat and they I don't know. they, I don't know. But yeah, there's been a lot of great hitting pitchers over there. It's like Dontrell Willis and those kinds. So you kind of miss out on that part of them. Although I don't know, I kind of like that there's one and the other because we get the best of both. You know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Plus, plus it also brings strategy to like interleague play because in American League, who plays the National League, they have to think, oh shit, how do we do this? And the National League playing American League are like, okay, who's going to play DH? You know, who are we subbing in? Who are we taking out? I mean, I like it. It creates a challenge having it different. When everything's the same, then there's no challenge. You know. I mean, you could argue it's a bit more challenging with the National League rules opposed to the DH, but the DH is more of a benefit to the players, but not necessarily a benefit in the strategy. So, I like that there's both, but I understand doing the universal thing. It'll be interesting to see, and yeah. The next rule change is the runner on second to begin extra innings. So basically, during the regular season, every half inning after the ninth will begin with the runner on second base. If that runner scores, the pitcher won't be charged with the earned run. The runner placed on second base at the start of each half inning will be the player in the batting order immediately preceding the half inning's leadoff hitter, or a pinch runner. However, if the player in the batting order immediately preceding that half inning's leadoff hitter is the pitcher, the runner placed on second base may be the player preceding the pitcher in the batting order. This rule will not be in place for the postseason.
I mean, that's pretty interesting, and it gives a little bit of an advantage to a team that has a good runner, or good runners overall.
Plus,
speed.
I think their goal is to make the games end quicker.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'd have to see it in action. I don't know how that would play out, but it sounds like teams would probably maybe do more bunting or maybe sell out less for home runs if they have a guy on second already.
Yeah, we might see some more dead ball era tactics with this. So it'll be interesting to see that play out. And also gives a statistic. Over the past 5 years, 8.26% of all regular season games have gone to extra innings. There will be 208 extra inning games in the 2019 regular season, counting for 8.56 of all. Yeah, so pretty much what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut down on extra innings time so they can make games quicker and shorter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Here's another one. There will be no restrictions on position players pitching in 2020. So basically what this means that this past offseason would have required teams to designate every player on their active roster as either a pitcher or a position player, and position players would have been unable to pitch unless it was extra innings. Their team was ahead or trailing by more than 6 runs, so they had qualified for the two-way designation. That rule won't be in place during this season. So pretty much, you can have pitchers and position players interchange their position. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how many position players can pitch, and I don't know how many pitchers can field. But it certainly gives some flexibility in how you organize your field. Especially if you have a position player that's hiding some arm. Yeah, so here's another interesting one. If weather forces a game to be cut short before it is official, it will be continued at a later date rather than started from scratch. So we might have some days where we might have a 3-inning game or something like that. God, can you imagine organizing all that shit for like an inning?
It'd be kind of lame, dude.
Yeah, but I understand though, because they gotta manage time. But in all honesty, if they were gonna scratch it, I say if it's more than 5 innings, just keep the final results. You know, if it's less than 5, continue it because it's long enough to justify doing it again. You know. But if it's more than 5, just call it like, finished. Here's one. Another. They got quite a. There's some more here. Players and managers will be expected to maintain physical distance for all umpires and opposing players on the playing field whenever possible. Players or managers who leave their position to argue with umpires come within 6 feet of an umpire or opposing player or manager for the purpose of argument, or engage in an altercation on the field will be subject to immediate ejection and discipline, including a fine and suspension. Discipline will be consistent with past precedents, shall not be reduced or prorated based on the length of the season. So pretty much, they'll get more and more trouble if they argue with umpire if they come within 6 feet or something. That's really the only change there. Nothing really super different there. Oh, and it doesn't have all the changes I remember, so I might have to. So there's a wet rag rule now where pitchers will be permitted to carry a small wet rag in their back pocket to be used for moisture in lieu of licking their fingers. Pitchers will not be able to access the rag while on the rubber, and they must clearly wipe the fingers off their pitching hand dry before touching the ball or the rubber. Water is the only substance that will be allowed on the rag. So that's something, but that's not all the rules though that they added. So let me okay, I found another. So there's a 3-batter minimum. And this rule was actually implemented before COVID-19. So even if we had a regular season, this would have been the newer. Pitchers must face either a minimum of 3 batters or complete a half inning, a switch pushed by half, or sorry, a minimum of 3 batters or complete a half inning. In this, so pretty much a pitcher has to go against at least 3 batters or complete a half inning before they can switch out. So we're not going to see pitchers pitching like 1 batter and then switching, or give them like 5 pitches and switching. So
unless there's an injury, of course.
Well, if there's an injury, then yeah, but that.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule change. It'll speed up the game. It won't be this bullshit where managers have to, call in a guy, commercial.
Yeah, and in all honesty, I always felt like with baseball, nowadays they're overthinking it. Like he's a pitcher, he can pitch. Let him pitch. Don't do this yinking and yanking shit. I mean, you can only gain so much of an advantage, you know?
Yeah, it just, at some point, it's too much time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, you can't just keep subbing people out all the time. It takes long. The advantage is minuscule. Not saying that there isn't one, but if you let people, like, hypothetically, you could sub out every single batter and have 27 pitchers, like, that'd be insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and plus, I mean, baseball's the only one of the major sports that doesn't have a clock. So while the games, from my experience, tend to run about the same length as other games, it just feels so much longer. And yeah, in
baseball, I mean, like, you have, like, mostly pitching and, like, that's okay, but a lot of what's exciting about baseball is just the running and the hits and stuff that isn't every single play.
Yeah.
Like, in football, I feel, or in basketball, in hockey, there's, like, an exciting, like, exchange every play. But when it's just pitching to a batter who may or may not hit, you don't have an exchange every single play. It's more like preparing for the exchange. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's there's definitely differences there. Yeah, I'm just making sure here. I'm surprised I haven't seen this. Alright, so here's what I was looking for. So what's going to be different this year the division alignment's regional base for the American and National. So it will feature each club playing 40 divisional games and 20 interleague games against the corresponding geographical division. So American League Central teams will only play National League Central teams in interleague play, and then East will play East and West will play West. So there's no hubs, but they only play the division they correspond with in the other league.
Okay.
So that's kind of the big thing. So Tigers, for example, are gonna play like National League Central teams, which I believe are the Cardinals, the Brewers, and so on. I think they're Central. I don't quite remember for sure.
But yeah, it keeps it to sort of a familiarity with your opponent instead of it just being kind of randomized every year.
Yeah, and plus I think they're trying to, based on these rule changes, I think they're trying to shoot for maybe making the. I could, in all honesty, I would. Some of these sports I feel like could use maybe some overhaul in how their divisions are aligned. It didn't used to be bad as it used to be. I mean, hell, like back in the day, like they had the Cardinals playing in the Eastern, in the Eastern division of NFC. So it hasn't been it's a lot better than it used to be, but I kind of would like to see maybe some new realignments in them because I know rivalries have been established, but there's some teams you think would play against certain teams, but they don't. Like for example, the Brewers. The Brewers in Milwaukee, you kind of have the feel that they should be playing against the Tigers, and they used to be in the American League, but then they switched to National League. So stuff like that would kind of interesting to see. But yeah, but what do you think of? And plus everything else like playoffs and all that, I meant those I think are going to be the same. I haven't seen any differences there. This is mostly concerning the regular season, which is unique compared to NHL and basketball. But what do you think of the changes they made for baseball this year?
I think some of them sound good. I particularly like that not having a pitcher for one pitch, having them do at least three batters barring injury.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that probably the best change was the one made before COVID.
Yeah, but overall, I think most of them sound pretty good.
Yeah, I kind of would like to see a 60 game season. I think that's a good length for base. I would like to see them either do 60 or 80 for baseball. I can see them maybe trying to squeeze in 100 because it is summer and they don't have competition, which I guess I would be okay with. But overall, I kind of would like to see I'm interested to see how they do with a short season. I think we might. I think more people would watch. In all honesty, if it was less games, because it creates like urgency or whatever. But yeah, so the last one we're gonna talk about is football. This one there's has been a lot of changes.
Yeah, dude, I heard somewhere that they wouldn't have preseason games.
Oh yeah, they're not doing preseason. They're skipping it. That's a new thing. They're skipping originally they were just gonna do 2 games, but now they're skipping it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that?
To be honest, on paper, it's a living nightmare for coaches because they have no way of testing which players are worth it or not, so they have to pretty much figure it all out on paper in practice or sacrifice regular season games figuring out who's going to be good. But for me, it's like I don't mind at all because, in all honesty, I'm in the mood for football, and then preseason starts, and I'm like, yeah, it's preseason, la da 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 da. I mean, some people like seeing the new guys, but to me, it's like, how often do you see like a rookie fresh face join the preseason and becomes the next big thing? It doesn't happen often, at least not often enough to warrant watching the preseason. In all honesty, I mean, a lot of Lions, like for example, when I watch Lions, a lot of them look great in those spurts, but they never get used, and then they get hurt. It's just I just rather just get to the regular season and get shit going, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a preseason going forward. There should be, but do we need 4 games? I mean, I guess it was better than it used to. It used to be like 6-game preseasons with a 14-game regular season. So I guess that's better. It's better now, but personally, I wouldn't mind seeing them do 2. I think 2 would be fine, cause you know they don't. Because I think at this point with how analytical players get and how athletic they are, I think coaches should know within 2 games with everything they get who's going to work and who isn't.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a good move. And I'm not gonna say that like it's perfect. Obviously, like there's an advantage to having, you know, a preseason and seeing what's gonna happen. But certain times, certain things.
Yeah. Besides that, I'm not sure. There is one interesting thing. So before this whole thing started, the owners put in a thing where like after this year, there's going to be 17 regular season games. However, they gave themselves the option if they like where things going with the regular season, they could add that extra game in this season. So we might see 17 games this year. But given how things are going, some people think that they might cancel some regular season games. Let's see. So basically, the league has built this season schedule such that a shortened season will be possible should they subsequently decide that the ongoing pandemic warrants a delayed start. So I imagine that they organize it in a way where the important games are later on, like division and stuff, so nothing gets messed up with that.
Yeah, it's similar to what they do in the Week 17. They have freaking a lot of close matchups, important matchups there.
Well, and also, this is not really related to changes, but it is something that's happening. The Redskins are changing their name after having it since 1933.
Get wrecked. I think it's funny, honestly.
In all honesty,
didn't they bring this up like 5 years ago or something?
It's been a thing for years, and I think people are just like got fed up with it just because. The problem with the Redskins, that organization, is the fact that they just, I mean, there's nothing they could say to warrant keeping the name. You know, there's no excuses or anything that warrants them keeping a name like that. You know.
Yeah, it's just not even a good name. Like even if they if it was like some huge thing.
I mean, even
honestly, it seems like it's a blemish on the NFL's history because they're gonna have to like refer to these past Super Bowl winning teams as the Redskins still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess with history concern, I mean, it's better that than just pretending it never happened in general, because it's never good to ignore history in general.
I just want to know, like, how they came up with that as a name in the beginning.
Well, originally, this is a little off topic, but basically, originally they were in Boston. They were called the Boston Redskins. The original owner named them Redskins. And
who's the original owner? It's kind of a weird name. Dude.
Yeah, let me quickly go to them here. So yeah, they've been around a long time. But yeah, they've been before like the last like 20 years. They've been pretty bad, but before that, they were actually one of the top teams in the NFL for a long time. Like 80s and 90s, a little bit of the 70s. Let's see. Yeah, they were the Boston Braves in 1932. Then they were the Boston Redskins from 33 to 36. And then they were the Washington Redskins from 37 to present. So yeah, they won 5 league championships in 3 Super Bowls.
That's weird.
And they went to it and they won 5 conference titles. And they had 24 playoff appearances.
Mm.
So yeah, they're valued at $3.1 billion, and they're the 5th most valuable franchise in the NFL and the 14th most valuable sports franchise globally. So they're a very valuable team. So they were called the Boston. Back in the day, it was very popular for football teams to be named after baseball teams. So there was a football team called the Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Yankees, when football was getting its start. Kind of like a cash in to get people to come to the games, you know, because baseball was around a lot longer than football, and they were trying to make a name for themselves. And that's what Boston did.
Okay. Yeah, I still think it was a weird name. Maybe they didn't think so much back then, but
So,
yeah, I agree with the change.
Yeah, so here's the justification for it. So the club, the club after the first year they moved to Fenway Park for their hosting football games, and the owners changed the team's name to the Boston Redskins to round out the change, to round out or justify it, or I don't know. The guy who was in charge at the time, Marshall, hired William Henry Lone Star. I can't pronounce his last name. It's like Dietz, and who claimed to be part Sioux as the team's head coach. So pretty much, they named them Redskins and hire a coach who they claim was half Native American to justify calling the team Redskins. That's what it sounds like on Wikipedia. Now, granted, it's Wikipedia, but I haven't found a lot of things terribly wrong with Wikipedia. So yeah, so either it's to justify using the name Redskins, or they just named him after the coach, kind of like how the Cleveland Browns were named after Paul Brown. But yeah, it's like, really, Redskins? It's like, couldn't you pick, like, I don't know, like
literally anything else.
Well, it's like, if you're going to go the Native American motive, there's better examples, like the Chicago Blackhawks, for example. I mean, or the CMU Chippewas. I mean, or Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Man, we got a little off. But yeah,
I think we should probably try and wrap the video up. We've been going on a while.
Yeah. So, here's other changes. The playoffs will be expanded from 12 to 14 teams. And this is something I forgot to expand. The league is allowed to expand the regular season from 16 to 17 games beginning in 2021 at the earliest, along with a corresponding reduction of preseason games from 4 to 3. Let's see. So another thing is a neutral decision maker will replace the NFL commissioner on ruling most discipline cases.
Alright, so Roger Goodell doesn't have absolute power?
No, he doesn't.
Fuck Roger Goodell's bullshit.
Unless the unanimous, like, neutral decision maker was named Roger Rudell.
It's the Roger Goodell robot.
Yeah.
I am Roger Goodell.
But yeah, that's basically it, guys. I know other leagues like Major League Soccer has come back, but I'm not gonna get into them right now. I don't know how many people are paying attention to that. I don't know if anyone even knows that, but they did come back. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
but that's really all the changes so far. That NFL is still ongoing because it's the league that's furthest away. So there might be more changes to it in the future, given how things go, like canceled regular season games or something like that.
It's probably gonna take longer to move the Jaguars to London, right?
Oh, that's never. Oh, having a team in London will be a nightmare, scheduling wise.
Just be a lot of boring airplane
In all honesty, the only way that would work.
By players.
The only
to get traded by players. It'd be an annoying joke.
The only way that would work is if they put they added an extra division in each conference and put them both in Europe, so that the scheduling will be a little bit easier on the players. Because they have to
have more than just one team in Europe. I feel they would have to have a lot more teams.
Yeah, I mean they used to do NFL Europe, but there's a reason why that's not going on anymore. I think, and there's a lot of people who love football, NFL football in Europe, in England, and Europe or whatever. It's just.
Why'd you say England first, though?
Because all the games were in London.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So it's kind of a hodgepodge there, but yeah, I can't think of anything else. The only other thing I can think of, and that's related to baseball, is that apparently the Blue Jays can't play in Toronto this year because of COVID, because their rules of dealing with it are different than America's. So we might see them take up. I heard Buffalo is a potential landing spot. Yeah, because Buffalo and Canada are really tied together really well. Like Buffalo, the NFL team for Buffalo is really the only NFL team that they allow to play in Canada, like predominantly. Like Canada will let Buffalo host an NFL game in Canada, and that's huge because Canada has a huge thing about NFL teams in Canada because of the Canadian Football League. Like they won't allow. That's why they're the only league without any Canadian teams in Canada.
Oh. Well, I guess that makes sense.
Because NHL was kind of a conglomerate between America and Canada, so they're kind of tied together. Baseball and I don't think baseball and basketball are as big in Canada as they are in America. That's why they don't make a real big fuss about it. Some teams being up in Canada, but I mean, there's only one each. There used to be more, but now it's just Toronto. There's in those sports. Montreal used to they used to have a Montreal team for baseball, and they used to have a Vancouver team in basketball. At least predominantly.
I think it makes sense though, just for travel purposes, and you want the teams to be close together.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, like, it's a shorter season. It's Buffalo. It's close enough to Canada. I mean, it's your job. I mean, it sucks, but I mean, you're travel all to Canada all the time anyway. Make an extended stay. It's a big deal, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's all that's really going on right now for sports. So what do you think of everything going on overall? Like, which league do you think is doing the best, and which do you think is doing the worst, if that can be measured, if any?
I don't know, man. I think we should wait and see. I don't want to make a judgment right now.
Yeah, for me, I like what hockey's doing a lot. I think I like some of the baseball changes. NFL, it's hard to say. I feel like NFL is getting away with a lot because they start so much later. And basketball, they're kind of keeping it simple. I kind of would have liked to see them maybe try something a little different, but I think with everything going on, they're just trying to finish the season. um, but yeah, um, but yeah, I guess another thing, a quick one. Do you like that they're finishing the seasons, or doing the seasons, or do you think do you think that they should just cancel everything for the year and just start fresh next year?
I think that at least they're taking action. I don't think you need to cancel them all, because then you have to like rework contracts, and you're missing out on money, and people are going to be upset that sports are gone for an entire another year or whatever. I think it's doable to bring them back. I think it's not that bad of an idea.
I'm still pissed they canceled XFL, so I'm still on that train. God.
Sucks for you, bro.
I do wish they bring it back next year. but it's doubtful because frickin' McMahon gave up the use of it. So I don't know, but but yeah, I was yeah, it sucked that COVID took XFL. That's the biggest victim of it all for sports league wise. XFL is the biggest victim by far. Um, but yeah, that's good here. Any closing thoughts on any of this?
No, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yep, and we'll see. We'll see Tom Brady fail in Tampa as well.
You think so?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. I think he'll be very average, in all honesty.
Cam Newton will do well in New England.
Oh fuck yeah, they're using him up the ass. I mean, they're not. Here's the thing: you don't sign frickin' Cam Newton to be a bench warmer. Even if he can't run, he has an arm and he's durable. At worst, he's a Ben Roethlisberger. At worst.
I mean that's a bold leap, actually. You mean like Roethlisberger right now, is what you're saying?
Well, Roethlisberger is trying because Roethlisberger he can move, but his big thing is that he has like physical movement. He can move, but he is a shedder. And Cam Newton's kind of the same way. The only difference is Cam Newton has like Vic speed, while Roethlisberger just has Stafford speed. But it's the same durability nonetheless, and that's kind of the thing there. I mean, and let's face it. I mean, if you even if it's just for a year, it's just like why it's if you're gonna use him as a bench guy, you're gonna have some high confidence in the other quarterbacks in the system you have now. Out of the two between Belichick and Brady, I think Belichick might be a bit more successful than Brady. They definitely got Brady some weapons, but I guess the big thing is can he manage the game without Belichick? He might be able to. He's been with New England for like 20 years, I think. So we'll see. But I'm intrigued in seeing the change. If I was Tom, I would just retire. I mean, why play? You know.
I would have just stayed in New England, but
I mean,
that's the whole thing. We'll see what happens. How's that?
yeah, we'll see what
I
happens.
don't want to make a judgment just yet.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. In case you wanted to chat with me, Mike, or anyone else at the Campy Company, and you don't want to use the YouTube comment section, we do have a Discord channel, and you can find the link to that channel in the About page / About section of our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's all we have to say. I guess next video topic for this, I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll probably just see what's going on with the world of sports after everything gets started. Maybe give our thoughts on like league championships or whatever. So, but yeah, we're gonna try to do these a bit more sooner as sports gets revved up. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.
Yeah, peace out.